Whatever you do,
do it good. Whatever you do, Lord, Lord. Do it good. All right. It's not what you look like when you're doing what you're doing. It's what you're doing when you're doing.
Oh,
what
stop
you
now.
look like you're doing. Express yourself.
I'm back in more ways than one.
Express yourself.
Here to have big fun. Hey, babe, what's up, babe?
In the jungle too.
Oh, much better tonight, much better.
Everybody on the floor now.
Jumping like kangaroos.
So let the horn do the
What's up, Miss
thing,
Love?
y'all.
Happy belated birthday to you. Bop. Spaghetti-do-tit-tit. Shit out there, you dig it about. Sing-it-do-tit-tit. Sing-it-do-bop.
Some people have everything, other people don't.
But everything don't mean a thing if it ain't the thing you want. Express yourself. Oh, something about the song. I don't know what it was. I think the first time I heard this, I was sitting in the class. I was like in 6th grade, and I heard it because our school was like across the street from Alan Toussaint Studios, and I was like, "Yo, I'm trying to concentrate." And I hear this song, and I was like, "Man, that is so funky." You can do that, do it, Lord, Lord. I don't know what those sounds mean, but he making Is he doing like vowels? A-E-I-O, A-E-I-O, and you sometime, wow. Express yourself. Oh, that's about it, baby. That's about it. What's up, people? First of all, I want to do two things. I want to apologize for last week. I really wasn't feeling good, but if you folks show up, I'm going to make sure that I'm here to give you what you came here for, even if I'm feeling under the weather, whatever. For my people from New Orleans, I've been repping all of my colleges and what have you, so I figured I'll go ahead and I'll rep my high school, the mighty GWC, like that there, baby, straight from the mighty Ninth Ward. But anyway, what y'all know about that? I'm here again. I want to thank you guys for coming and spending some time with me. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It seems like I'm stuck on politics here, but I just feel like somebody has to make sense of some of this madness. So here I am again. People in a republic, they depend heavily on those elected to lead. That's what they're there for. Once upon a time, elected officials were honorable public servants that had meager salaries, and you could actually reach out and touch them. They debated the issues and they were held accountable for campaign promises. If they were thought to be untrustworthy, they were painted as charlatans and actually ran out of town. Nowadays, politicians are rich and far removed. They are exalted, power-driven personalities with gigantic egos. They reside in ivory tower-like offices on Capitol Hill or Pennsylvania Avenue. Socially and economically, they're detached from the very people they were elected to serve. The words are slogans and catchphrases on a poster or a 30-second commercial spot drums into the subconsciousness every election cycle with no associated accountability. So without any further ado, tonight's podcast is called Power. How did we get here? A republic versus democracy. America was founded by aristocrats, wealthy white men who did not want to pay taxes to King George. These aristocrats became the founding fathers who did not want their houses and right to property to be trampled on by tyrannical rule or soldiers pillaging in the name of the crown. So they declared their independence. The South was populated mainly by poor, illiterate, former indentured servants, not even a generation removed from their own slavery of England's pauper's prison. Most of these former indentured servants were accustomed to paying taxes and having their property taken. Therefore, these poor Southerners were living better than they'd ever lived before, and they weren't interested in going to war with King George. They saw the revolutionary skirmish as an aristocrat problem. So the Southerners remained neutral despite the Northerners' pleas to intervene and join them. It was not until Fort Sumter in South Carolina was fired upon that the South officially entered the fight and the Revolutionary War was formally declared. Okay, so why is this history lesson important? Because history repeats itself. Some say to a man who doesn't know his history, he's damned to relive it. Today, as in the early 1770s, we have a class war brewing. It's being waged by white men. These elected officials, like the early aristocrats, are seizing power as members of a ruling class and preventing the poor, the middle class, and the disenfranchised the ability to pursue life, liberty, and property. In short, denying them the American dream. The richest 3% of Americans include elected officials like Mitch and Don, who amass enormous amounts of wealth, yet pay little to or nothing on their earnings in taxes. This means that the working class is responsible for the infrastructure, things like streets, bridges, schools, and public services, i.e. the police and fire departments. The middle class has become the modern indentured servants. Many are one generation and two paychecks removed from servitude and homelessness themselves. But what's funny, the irony of all this is, after fighting to get the right to vote, poor blacks don't vote. They feel a vote doesn't matter. Poor whites, conversely, vote with emotion against their pocketbooks, hoping to preserve the one thing that they have, the status quo called white privilege. Enter racism and fear, led by chaos. Mitch and Don are nothing new. They're no more than a shady politician and a crooked land baron of the Old West. This was the first time in our nation's history that history repeated itself. It's no secret that Mitch is one of the richest senators. Conversely, Kentucky is one of the poorest states. Yet Kentuckians re-elect Mitch every 6 years. Go figure. Don, on the other hand, is neither a social science expert or a business savant. Yet his twiddlers blindly endorse him, even when it impacts their income. Both are bold opportunists whose audacity knows no bounds. Logic would say that at some point, poor whites and poor blacks will realize that an enemy of my enemy is my friend. But logic is so far removed from voting habits or political behavior. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Preamble to the Constitution. Since about 2014 or so, Mitch has been trying to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. When we saw an influx of war injuries and military-related physical and mental conditions, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that thanks for your service was an empty gesture with an expiration date. Remember, former Secretary of Veteran Affairs Bob McDonnell said the VA was like Disneyland. Sometimes you have to wait. Go figure. In 2017, 45 got his tax plan passed by a Republican Party via Mitch in the Senate and Paul Ryan in the House of Representatives. To add insult to injury, somehow in 2019, he got a second tax bill passed, even with a Democratic majority. More importantly, 45 got Congress to cut corporate taxes by 14%. It went down from 35% to 21%. On the other hand, the average American pays somewhere between 28 and 35% of their income towards taxes. Taxation without representation. Again, history repeats itself. Right now, I'm doing this because time is of an essence. As I previously stated, the Republican base is unified behind 45. Meanwhile, the Dems is having a tug of war going on in the party. Mitch and Don are coming for all of us. No group is safe. No classes or races are safe. They publicly announced plans to reduce or eliminate, number 1, Social Security, number 2, Medicare and Medicaid, number 3, universal health care, including pre-existing conditions, number 4, woman's right to choose, number 5, student loans and student loan forgiveness, number 6, low-cost home loans, and finally, veteran diagnoses and benefits. Meanwhile, their tax breaks are locked in for the next 10 years to the tune of $2.2 trillion added to the deficit. Time is of essence. Time is of essence. Let's talk about caucuses. Last week I talked about caucuses being obsolete and ineffective, and I'll tell you why. Choosing 45's opponent cannot be left up to a caucus. A Democratic candidate has to be chosen logically, not emotionally. Problem is, we've been bombarded with so many candidates and empty problems. Problems and promises, but nobody's doing anything to vet these people's records or look at them as an antidote to Mitch and Don's frontal assault on America. I was talking to one of my friends last night about this thing, and he had no idea that he was helping me solidify some of the things that I was already feeling and wanting to put into this presentation. Mike Bloomberg has a history that includes jailing over 700,000 black and brown men. Mike only apologized after he decided that he would run. To me, he's acting as though he believes he can buy the presidency. Who does that remind you of? Kind of reminds me of somebody already in the White House. Pete, he's too non-committal He's young. Though he's a Rhodes Scholar, he has no real experience dealing with the likes of Mitch and Don. So I just can't see it. And then he's a candidate that just happens to be gay. How avant-garde. Nancy I respect, but she seems lost. As though she's being led by her campaign and not leading her campaign. Bernie I like. I like some of the things he says. I like that he has a history, but he doesn't commit to being a Democrat until it's convenient for him. And what frightens me most about Bernie is his health. And his hit squad reminds me of the Tea Party and some of the Twitler's minions. 45? Because caucuses didn't divulge any of this information, I asked, who are these caucuses really serving other than the egos of the people that participate in the states that they represent? And they're still not indicative of everybody in the state because not everybody in the state gets to vote as in a primary. So we need to do away with caucuses and have primaries leading up to the general election. Before, fight the party, fight the power, fight the party, fight the power. There are 4 primary threats that we must overcome if we're going to choose someone that will not only beat 45, but neutralize Mitch and get this country back on track. First threat is the caucuses. And yes, to beat a dead horse, caucuses are ineffective because they are biased and they do not reflect national demographics. Plain and simple. You can't vote for me if you haven't walked in my moccasins. If you don't share my ideologies, you can't vote for me. You can't tell me who I'm going to be limited to voting for. Number 2, young Dems. There are young people, a faction within the Democratic Party that's making an attempt to seize power, similar to what the Tea Party did in the Republican Party. Problem is, we can't afford that splintering now. They're willing to do whatever it takes. But what will they do if Bernie, Pete, I always want to call him Bernie Rubber. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. What will they do if Bernie or Pete don't get the nomination? Number 3 is what I call glass house Dems. Nobody's perfect. But these self-righteous individuals condescending people who repeat sound bites. And they condemn people rather than vet a candidate based on the merit of their experience or their ability to lead and do the job. Number 4 is what I call mass appeal. We have a golden opportunity now because 46% of voters, registered voters, didn't vote in the 2016 presidential elections. We could sit here and talk about why. I'll just touch on it a little later. But mass appeal, if we could just unite 75 to 80% of the Democratic Party, plus garner those moderate Republicans who are sick and tired of Trump, but too afraid to say something because their own kind will feed on them, and the independents. We can unseat 45. We can get a Democratic Senate, and we can demand that our Democrats do something, not pass tax bills that are going to give the rich more tax breaks and cut corporate taxes by 14%. It's ridiculous. We do not need another presidential election where we're forced to choose between the lesser of two equals, or the lesser of two evils. And the two are synonymous because sometimes the two evils are somewhat equal to each other. So it doesn't matter what banner they're wearing, whether they're calling themselves a conservative, a liberal, or a Republican, or a Democrat. We find ourselves trying to pick the lesser of the two. We have to choose someone who has the skill set right now to take charge and grab the momentum before we lose all of our rights and as well as our civil liberties. What if? What if the candidate that you like doesn't get the nomination? What are you going to do? Would you vote for whatever dim is on the ballot? Would you stay home and not vote at all? Would you or anybody you know just say, bump it and vote for out of spite? If I could accomplish anything, just one thing from these podcasts, it would be to decipher, simplify, and raise awareness of the political process so that I can get everyone engaged. That's what this is all about. Everyone keeps asking me, why don't you run? My Republican neighbor even says, a 71-year-old white woman says, Hank, I'm a South Carolina Republican, and I would vote for you because you make so much sense. I don't think I'd make a good politician because I'm straight, no chaser. Some of the things I say today will come up and bite me in the butt simply because I tell it as I see it. I don't think about, whether it's the politically correct thing to say. I say it because I think it's the right thing to say. I'm straight, no chaser. Or as someone once said, I'm a straight man in a crooked game. My dream would be to design and implement cost-effective programs that give everybody access. It would create equality through equal access, and it would also create equity and reward all people for their hard work. So I would work better as a chief of staff for some progressive. In closing, I know I've given you a lot in a very small period of time, but I know you, fam. I know you guys are sharp. I know because some of you guys come to me with questions. Some of you guys that have my number have been calling me, and some people have been inboxing me, and other people have been texting me. So I know that this is hitting home. I know that this is resonating. I know it's striking chords with people. So all I want to do, again, is to decipher, break it down, go cut through some of the jargon, simplify it, and keep everybody engaged. In closing, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your attention. I want to thank you for your support. I want to remind you, do not forget to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe, because I'm going to be taking my message there soon. I'll see you next week and every week until we eradicate hate and we get on track to get our country back. As always, imparting. See you. Short and sweet, huh? That was good? That was good? I'm looking at some of the people here, and I just want to send some shout outs because, like I said, last week I wasn't feeling good, and you guys showed up, and I couldn't show up the way I wanted to, but it made me feel so much better because you guys were here. So I put on my best show, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to redo that show because I was in so much pain. Every time I would raise my head or turn my head, I couldn't dance, I couldn't clown, I couldn't do anything. So, Denise, have a good night too. Serenthia, hi there. Lene, awesome. Thank you, babe. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, you guys, Ramona, hey, babe. Valeto, what's up, boo-boosk? All right, Linda, you can check it out whenever you want. Just showing up here means a lot to me. Anika, my favorite cousin and only godchild. Girl makes me proud. Liza with the Z, preach. I know, I felt like I was preaching tonight. Maybe I should have took a little collection. GoFundMe or what's the other one? Cash App? Yeah, there you go, there you go. Linda, what's going on? I would make Linda my secretary, but I don't know. I don't trust her with my money. What's up, Reg? See me, huh? I'm repping. We all went to school together. What's up, Nikki? No little girl named Nikki. No, let me stop. I got a lot of interaction from you guys, man. I appreciate that. I see a lot of Carver rights here. Hey, James, what's up, Juliet? Yeah, James K. Deborah, the birthday girl. Yeah, I had to express myself. You saw me getting down. Hey. Hey, folks. Y'all have a good night. I'm out of here. Peace.